Hi friends, and welcome to the next video. In this video, I want to talk about a concert that I did at Musicians Institute from the time when I was teaching there. And this concert is very special because it became part of the footage in my video and instructional book, Latin Soloing for the Drum Set. Okay, so I was planning a concert and talking to the owner of MI at that time, Becky, Natalia, she was a friend of mine. And we were trying to see who we were gonna get to play, right? So Becky had some suggestions for me, and I had some guys that I really wanted to use. So one of the suggestions that Becky had was Abe Laboriel. Abe is a, I mean, if you don't know Abe, he's like a legend, okay? On bass, he is a fantastic energy, incredible energy, and someone that just elevates your playing just for the act of being on the same stage with him. It's crazy. And then Luis Conte, I really wanted to get Luis to be on the gig because we were doing a couple of things together, and I always loved his playing, and so we got Luis. On piano, Joe Rotundi, who is a fantastic Afro-Cuban salsa and jazz pianist. I mean, he's amazing. And I did a lot of teaching with him at MI, and we were doing a lot of stuff together at that time too. Then of course, there's Emil Richards on vibes. Emil, well, another legend practically. He's done tons of movie soundtracks. I mean, the guy, at one time, I hung out with him for like 2 hours at a cafe after a gig, and he was telling me about his life, and he was teaching me about odd meters and stuff like that. I mean, what a fantastic guy. I mean, an incredible guy. And, I absolutely loved him on the gig. And then there was Albert Wing on sax. Albert Wing ended up playing on one of my CDs. And he was a saxophonist that I saw, while hanging out at different clubs in LA, jazz clubs and stuff. And I really loved his playing, and I said, man, I've got to have Albert on this concert because his playing is so powerful and energetic. When you hear Albert playing, you'll see that the energy level suddenly boom, shoots up, to the max. And really a fantastic player. And then, of course, Toshi Yanagi, my buddy from school, who we actually went to school together, and now Toshi has become a pretty well-known guitarist. He's playing with a lot of great people out there in LA, and I'm very proud of Tosh. And that's the lineup. So in this concert, right before the concert, I had been teaching all day, and we've been talking about the concert for weeks, right? And trying to get it together. So finally the day arrived, and the camera crew was there, and the hall had filled with students, like 200 and something students. I mean, it was at max capacity, couldn't even fit any more people in, people standing around. And because they heard about the lineup, right? It was an incredible lineup. So I was backstage with the guys, and I'm going, oh my God, what are we gonna play? I've been so busy and thinking about things, I haven't even got a set list, And so me and the guys, made a set list, and we're sitting there, we're talking, and I'm kind of like this, like, oh man. And Abe Laboriel comes up to me, he goes, man, what's the matter? And he goes, God, I hope we do well, man, because everybody's here and the whole camera crew, and this is costing a lot of money, and I hope we play well. And Abe goes, look at who you have with you. Nothing can go wrong. It was amazing. All right, after he said that, I totally relaxed, man. I laughed my butt off when he said that, and he was so great. He was so kind to me. And well, just an incredible experience. I mean, the crowd went nuts, and this little snippet here is what ended up being on my DVD. It was a DVD, it was a video and then it turned out to a book. Hal Leonard didn't want to make it a DVD at the time. DVDs weren't that popular. Huge mistake, right? Now this concert is in the concert of history of concerts out in MI in the library there. But I mean, I have the whole thing on video. Unfortunately, I haven't had it transferred to DVD yet or made it digital. But this part I did because it was part of the book and blah blah blah. A lot of the footage from MI ended up being on the book. Well, I shot it, on a different day. Anyway, that book was quite interesting because it took years to get it together. It took a long time to write. It was a lot of consulting, a lot of experimenting, a lot of practicing too, because I had to practice all that stuff to make sure I had it together before I opened my mouth, and that took a long time. And I discovered how to make things better and round out the exercises. I talked with ethnomusicologists from different universities to make sure that the text was correct and everything with the descendancy of rhythms was correct and everything. So then I was working on the editing with Rick Mattingly, actually. And we edited the book together. The book was actually so much longer. I mean, it would have been like this, an encyclopedia basically. But Rick started taking out and out and out and out. And I had to find a way to compress everything and have like the gist of the whole concept in a small book format. Which is very unfortunate, in my opinion, because it could have been just a massive book, right? But it wasn't practical at the time because printing a book, we didn't have PDFs back then. We didn't have all this computer stuff. If I would have written it now, it would have been like this, right? So what can you do? The information on there, though, is absolutely precise. Now, one of the things about the book was, at the time when it came out, well, still to this day, there is nothing like the information you'll find in that book. That book essentially gives the secret to Afro-Cuban drum set, Afro-Cuban playing, from a Western standpoint, bringing you into the Latin or African point of view, right? How to mix the two things together, which is a very important thing for drummers, especially in the West, if you want to play this music, because over there, obviously, they grow up with it. They have all that vocabulary in their daily lives. I mean, that's the music they listen to all the time, and it's in the streets and in the bars, but not for Western players, right? So there had to be a way to make that vocabulary accessible. And that's how we came up with RTS. RTS is relayed time shifting. If you don't know about it, there's videos here on the channel too. And I ended up getting really great reviews from that book from percussionists from all over the world, actually. And when all was said and done, that book costs $35,000 to produce. An astounding amount, because of all the footage and all the, originally, like I said, it was going to be video. So at that time, video was so expensive, and it was just a massive endeavor. And I'm kind of like, if you know me, I guess if you don't know me, but if you know me, you know that I'm kind of like a pit bull. I have an idea and I latch onto it and I do not let go until it's done. And that book was a true labor of love in that sense. And it was so, let's say, revealing in the sense of the vocabulary, like how to obtain the vocabulary. Many of the things in that book were actually considered forbidden to Westerners, right? That it was considered language of sacred music of Cuba, of Africa, a lot of those things, you know, back in those days were very secretive and very much something that was only used in religious music, religious, you know, Santeria and stuff like that. So I'm in Miami playing, and there's some percussionist over there from Cuba, a lady. She didn't like me, or whatever reason, for writing that book, right? And so she put a curse on me. I laugh at that stuff, but the owner of this club where I was in Miami, I was playing, and he said, "Oh, you know that percussionist so and so." I don't even remember her name actually. She's disappeared from the scene, or never was in the scene. But anyway, the owner of the club was like, "Yeah, watch out for her, man, because she's kind of a witch, and she put a curse on you." And I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, because you wrote that book, and you know you're not supposed to write that, you're not supposed to reveal that, and blah blah blah." I'm like, "Oh, brother, here we go." Right? At that time, this was a big issue, actually. You know, revealing the secrets of this kind of music. I was at Pro Drum Shop one time, and hey Stan, hey guys, in LA, and they had some cassette tapes of Santeria music, right? I'm like, whoa, what's that? Interesting. Yeah, it's Santeria. This guy made this compilation. He went to Cuba or whatever, you know, right? And then it went back like a week later, and all the cassettes were gone, right? And I said, what happened to the cassettes? And Stan said, well, we had to take them down because, you know, too many people were saying, oh, you should not be selling that. That's prohibited music. That's not for you guys, and blah, blah, blah. So, woo, you know, this is how hardcore it was back then. I mean, we're talking 25 years ago. I don't even want to think about how long ago, but yeah, that's about it. I've gone through a lot of hell with that kind of stuff. And even when learning, you know, different styles of music, especially Afro-Cuban, you know, it wasn't easy. It was a thing where you're like, hey man, you're not from Cuba, you're not from Puerto Rico, you're not from here or there. You shouldn't be playing this stuff, and what ridiculous attitudes, you know, ridiculous. I guess there is some amount of cultural appropriation, fear, and stuff like that. But the way I was doing it, I was, you know, my aim was to get this music out to the general public, let's say, to make it bigger so that everybody could love the music and give it the proper spot in history that it deserves. You know, that was my feeling, that it was so underground and so difficult and nobody had access to information. I mean, when I wrote this book, there were books out that said rumba, right? Rumba, literally rumba, not rumba. And that had the beat of the organ. Remember those organs in the 70s where you'd push rumba and it would play a beat like a little drum machine, horrible bit. It literally had that transcribed and it said, oh my God. The books were a disaster about, you know, especially Afro-Cuban music back then. I mean, disastrous, horrible information, just totally wrong. I mean, incredible, right? So when this book came out, it kind of like smashed a lot of barriers. And it was, you know, it was backed up by some heavy cats, ethnomusicologists from UCLA and USC. And of course, I showed it to many great players. I showed it to Ralph Humphrey and Joe Porcaro and Luis Conte and all these guys. I mean, you know, and they loved it, and they actually encouraged me very much when I was going through all that stuff to keep going, you know, because it got ugly sometimes. You know, you think things are just come out and you just have a book and it just comes out. Man, it's not like that. There's a lot of things that you have to deal with, especially, you know, in those days, and with sensitive issues, you know, dealing with ethnicities and different types of styles, and, you know, there's always jealousy and weirdness. And I mean, many people, like I said, the overwhelming amount of people were very supportive and wow, they really loved the material. They never thought about it like that. And it was something that opened a lot of doors, you know. But you know, like I said, at the same time, it did have difficulties that came, really ugly things, you know, like that woman putting a curse on me, for example. Whatever. I still laugh at the time at the thought of that, but it's funny. Anyway, this footage you're about to see is the night of that concert. Okay, the night of the concert that ended up being on the DVD with Amyl, with Luis Conte, Amyl, Joe Rotundi, Albert Wing, Toshi Yanagi, myself, and who am I missing? Luis Conte. Okay. So this is the footage of the concert from that historic night at MI. And I'm very proud of this concert. You know, obviously, I wish I would have played better. You can never avoid that. But you'll see my old setup with the cymbals like way up here and stuff like that. Back in those days, I was playing that, I don't know why, you know, whatever. But it's interesting to see now and look back on all those times. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you'll watch the concert. Remember, join my lesson site. Only $200 gets you into the full year program with full support from me on whatever social media platform you're on. Okay, so hope to see you on the lesson site. Enjoy the concert. hope you enjoyed that. And that concert actually, it went for like 2.5 hours. It was one of the longest concerts ever at MI at that time. Everybody loved it, and it was great. It's kind of funny to see my setup, at that time. Everything was, that was kind of like in the fashion at that time, let's say. Oh, and it's just funny to see. And I also had a lot of hair, and we're all a lot younger. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. By the way, the name of the band was Zumbada Asche, right? So it's a secret code name that went around LA while the band, we were playing a lot of different clubs, Baked Potato and stuff like that. Zumbada Asche. Just think of a Puerto Rican guy or a Cuban guy with a real heavy accent saying, man, that's some badass shit, right? Hey man, that's some badass shit, right? Zumbada Asche. So you know what the last word is. Anyway, I thought it was funny, and so did everybody else. And that's the secret, the name of the band. Anyway, again, please check out my lesson site. We have super thanks now here on the channel. I appreciate everybody for sending super thanks. There's been a couple of guys that have been sending, super thanks. It's always nice to feel appreciated, and I'm very happy you're enjoying this content. And thank you for all the wonderful comments too. Okay, so $200 for the entire year. Don't miss it. PhilMatrano.com. Peace.